have a weekend? Who was it? Who allowed me to have a weekend? Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. Today, we are playing Stardew Valley, but I'm gonna change the season to winter as soon as we start. Because it's Christmas! My name is Jack, and this is Christmas Farm, and my favorite thing is Christmas. And that animal looks like my cat. Alright, let's make me paler, because I am pale. Almost too pale. Game's a little loud. I'm gonna turn that down for you guys, at least. I'll turn it down for myself later. There we go. It's too bad I can't do like gradient hair. Let's see. Kind of like that. Do the same for the eyes. Something similar for the eyes, anyways. Bow, 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 bow. Community center balls are normal. That's fine. I turned down my volume for a little while until I can edit the thing. Okay, we need a shirt. Do they have brown overalls? They have brown suspenders. I know they have overalls, but they're not gonna be like... Maybe I could... Ooh, I could do a little sweater, maybe. Thank you. Something like long sleeves, I think. I guess they're all kind of the same sleeve length, huh? Mouse. Could just do the basic overalls. I haven't, like, played Stardew since I updated my design, so... I don't quite know what's here anymore. Could do the red because it's, like, Christmassy. I like that. And then we'll do like brown pants. Kind of a reddy brown. There we go. I don't know if I like red on me. This is so silly. Is this like kind of red and green? I don't know. I could do a green shirt. I have like no green in my design anywhere. But I don't want to be like all brown, that's boring. I can change this later, but... Alright, I think I like this one. That's fine. I'm probably not gonna need to do an accessory. Clown nose. Clown nose is pretty funny, gotta say. Oh, a little blushy. Okay, maybe we'll do a little blushy. That's cute. And I'm gonna start with a hand mirror because I have things to do. Let's see, what farm do we want? Standard farm, not Riverland farm, forest farm, hilltop farm, wilderness farm. Let's start with 2 chickens. That's pretty good. But I think the forest farm is what we're gonna be doing. Okay. Here we go. Oh, I could have skipped the intro. Oh well. It's fine. I'll just eat my donut. I have a donut. Cause the last day of Hanukkah was last night. We got donuts. Also, it was Yule. So it was like double. I don't have to click, do I? Oh, I do. Listen close. There will come a day when you feel crushed by the burden of modern life. True. A bright spirit will fade before a growing emptiness. Grandpa, are you okay? That happens, my boy. You'll be ready for this gift. Is Grandpa okay? Like, how does he know? It's like, it fucking sucks here. I fucking hate creepy Woody licking his lips. I hate it. That guy's fucking dead. Behind me there. Dear Jack, if you're reading this, you must be in dire need of a change. The same thing happened to me long ago. I'd lost sight of what mattered most in life. Real connections with other people and nature. So I dropped everything and moved to the place I truly belong. I've enclosed the deed to that place, my pride and joy, Christmas Farm. It's located in Stardew Valley, on the southern coast. It's the perfect place to start your new life. This was my most precious gift of all, and now it's yours. I know you'll honor the family name, my boy. Good luck. Love, Grandpa. I just realized by starting in winter, I'm turning this into a Hallmark movie, and I kind of love that. But yes, if Louis is still alive, say hi to the old guy for me, will ya? So, I'm I'm ending my relationship with my corporate boyfriend, and I'm moving to the Christmas town. I'm moving to Christmas Farm. My grandpa's pride and joy. Oh, he must be Jack. Just pretend it's snowy. Alright, let's go. Christmas farm. It's a disaster. Sure, it's a bit overgrown, but there's some good soil underneath that mess. Here we are, your new home. Ah, the new farmer. We're going to put you in a stasis until winter. Everyone's been asking about you. It's not every day that someone new moves in. It's quite a big deal. Rustic. Wow. The lack of Christmas cheer in this town already. I can see I'm really needed here. Okay. Okay, put it in the box if I want to sell it. Got it. Okay, so... Oh, look, it's already festive in here. I need to... turn down the music. Is there... How do I open... Okay. Cool. Okay. And then I go to sleep. What the heck is that? Oh, okay. I don't know what that is, but okay. We can find presents from a mysterious man. It must be Santa. We can find presents from Santa. I haven't played Stardew Valley in so long. Oh, I found a cat. It's a cat. Yeah, I'll adopt this cat. Nimbus. I got a letter. Wood chipper. Okay, why would you want that? Squid. Okay, the mine is automatically open. Okay, cool. Okay. Wait, didn't I get... Yeah, okay. Cranky mittens, fingerless mittens, mittens, pom-pom mittens. Yeah, Stardew! Prismatic mittens. No, I want... Okay, we want the mittens. You stayed up late playing ZA? That's fair. Alright. Yeah, that's good. And then I can add the... cozy scarf. We'll make the cozy scarf pink. Pink scarf. So cute. Okay, and then I don't think I have any hats. Are you playing with any mods or is this vanilla? I do have mods. I have this hand mirror mod and I have sweater doesn't have sleeves. So I guess we'll just do this. Oh, I can override the shoe color. Oh, that's great. I can give myself some like, oh, some like pink winter boots. Yeah, I just have some aesthetic mods, that's it. Just for fun. I'm getting some like winter clothes. Oh, I see. Can do this. We'll make it we'll go with the brown, like a brown sweater. Yeah. 16, 43, 48. There we go. That's cute. I'm playing around with mods myself. There's a lot to go through and suss out. Yeah. So I have... Yeah. So I have this mod that allows me to do this. I don't have any hats, do I? No, I don't have any hats. This just allows me to have, like, this, like, winter outfit, basically. Want to swap. Yeah. The NPCs get winter outfits. I should be able to have winter outfits. Indeed. So yeah, we're getting ourselves a little winter outfit. There we go. And then we're gonna get started. Oh, that's my scarf. No, I like my scarf's color. I want my mittens to match. It's 08967. All right, there we go. Those technically match now. All right, here's our winter outfit. It's cute. We're starting in winter. So can't really plant anything. Just gonna start cleaning up the farm. I don't know quite what we're gonna farm. It's probably gonna be a lot of foraging. That's why I chose the like foresty farm. It's because it has like foraging on it, I think. So we're just gonna start cleaning up. I want to get enough wood to make a chest real quick. So we can stay organized. But yeah, so we're in a Hallmark movie. I have broken up with my corporate boyfriend, my corporate fiance, because all he cares about is money or something. And I'm starting my new life here on Christmas Farm, just like Grandpa would have wanted. So it was my grandpa's dying wish that I have this farm. So here we are. I tried watching a Hallmark movie last night and stuff and I couldn't finish it. They're all the same. They are all the same. They're not my favorite thing either. I just think it's funny to make fun of them. I saw a funny YouTube short the other day that was someone making fun of Hallmark movies. Alright, I'm almost out of energy. And I still want to, like, walk around the town and meet people. So, I have enough wood for a chest, I think. Oh, the other mod that I have keeps animals inside when it's cold. I couldn't handle it. Yeah. They are fun to make fun of. But yeah, so animals stay inside now. And I'm gonna light the fire for Nimbus. And she can stay warm inside. I brought my cat with me. Oh, it's Krobus. Also, as soon as I changed the season to winter, I got a notification that there's like mystery boxes around. I don't know what that's about. That's vanilla. I didn't download any kind of mod for that. So apparently there's mystery boxes. That'll be interesting. Oh, Mayor Lewis is gonna tell us about the community center. Hi, Mayor Lewis. It's my second day in town. I just arrived yesterday, right? What are you looking at? What an eyesore. Yeah, well. What can you do? He is the mayor. I wouldn't have picked him for the mayor, but he is. Oh, yeah, Marnie deserves way better. This is the Christmas Town Community Center. Used to be the pride and joy of the town, always bustling with activity. And Christmas. Now just look at it, it's shameful. These days, the young folk would rather sit in front of the TV than engage with the community. Why do I feel a little bit called out here? But listen to me, I sound like an old fool. You do. You are. Joja Corporation has been hounding me to sell them the land so they can turn it into a warehouse. Pelican Town could use the money, but there's something stopping me from selling it. Joja, that's where my ex-fiance worked. I hate Joja. I guess old-timers like me get attached to relics of the past. Oh well. If anyone else buys a JojaCo membership, I'm just gonna go ahead and sell it. Here, let's go inside. Time for rats. Apple rat. I'd engage with the community if I felt like I was part of it instead of being shamed for being young, Lewis. Guess Vincent and Joss must have been playing in here. This place is even more dilapidated than I remember. Hmm? What's the matter? Are you ill? Look how cozy my scarf looks. I want a cozy scarf. Wait, I can give myself a cozy scarf. Hang on, how do I... If I'll draw it on top of here, but I can't show you guys if I do that. So just hang on 1 second. Gonna make myself a cozy scarf. Just real quick. All right. And then if I save this like this, and then there we go. And I kind of want it like here. I don't want it like attached to my head. Okay. Wait. Only pin to specific layer, and then if I can... Oh. Maybe? No, now it's not pinned to anything. Wait, I'll just make it smaller. I just want to attach it to my... I want to attach it to, like, my chest. Alright, that's good enough. That's good enough. Alright, here we go. Now I have a cozy scarf. It looks so silly. Wait, if I just make it big enough to, like... It's dumb. I thought it would be cute, but I can't get it to pin to the right spot. Wait, let me get... I can get, like, a blanket. It's not gonna, like, match my art style at all, but I can have a cute little blanket. Alright, cool, that works. Cozy. Anyways. Gotta be... Get you some breckin. Nice. Ken breakfast, yeah. Oh, workshop it. No, I like breckin. It's hard to beat Blackfist, though. I'll have to come back and explore this building further. The disconnect between the two art styles is not bothering me as much as I thought it would. I'm just getting all the cutscenes because I skipped right to winter. Our new special orders board. Oh, and I built it from scratch. All he did was hold the nails. Shook! He's shook. He's been called out. Now let me explain. You see, with Christmas Farm back in business, the local economy has really been picking up. As a result, some of the local townsfolk have been asking me for a way to source local ingredients for their business or personal projects. So Robin and I came up with the idea of a new special orders board. I don't know how... I don't know. I look forward to helping. Yeah, I'm on board. All right. Hi, Robin. I have not met everyone in town yet. Because it's winter. Everyone's gonna be in their house, huh? We'll find out. Oh, look at Evelyn's little headscarf. She's so cute. I'm not gonna recognize people. Hi, Jody. Emily looks so cute. Look at her little red scarf. I will be stopping by the saloon. I love you. Hi, Abigail. Oh, here we go. %50 off. The capitalism has spread through this town worse than I thought. Morris, shut the fuck up. We found our hallmark villain. Capitalism. I hadn't quite realized how well it fits into a Hallmark movie. That's right. Hi, Caroline. Oh, Jody has more to say. I can meet Marnie. Who I've technically met because she gave me my cat. But she didn't because I took my cat with me from the big city. Just me and my cat against the world. Against capitalism. Hi, George. Bye, George. Bye, George. I think I've got it. Is Pam in here? No. She's probably at the saloon, huh? Soon as it opens. Look at the little Christmas tree. She's not here. Where is she? Hi, Gus. I like Gus's sweater. It's cute. Cute sweater. Is there anyone else in here? No. Light the fire, Gus. It's cold. Dang. Alright, let's check the library. Lotion made from green beans. Outer melon seeds. I think I can grow those in the winter. It's a winter thing. Hi, Gunther. Hi, Vincent. Hi, Jazz. Oh, look at how cute she is. I had a partner who, an ex, who didn't like Jas because someone made a Yandere Jas mod, and then they, like, couldn't wrap their head around Jas not being Yandere. It was really dumb. I knew it was dumb then, too. I was just like, uh-huh. Alright, then. Cool, you can... Yeah. You're really easily influenced, aren't you? Hi, Clint. Only talk to Clint because I have to. Let's see, who haven't I met yet? Haley... Ah, okay, yeah. Let's go... I don't know where Haley is in the winter. Or Sam. It might be in their house. Haley's right here. Her little earmuffs are cute. Horrendous clothes! You shut your mouth, I'm adorable. Rude. Horrendous clothes. Jeez. People will probably start gathering at the saloon soon. It's a Tuesday, so... Oh, Sam's in here, though. Hi, Sam. Oh, nobody in here. Emily... Ah, there's, Maru. Sam. Can't talk to Harvey because he's in his house, which is locked. Try to go up here and talk to these folks, maybe? I know I can meet, oh gosh, what's his name? Can't remember anymore. But his tent is up there. It's been a long time since I played. Demetrius. I don't think... Yeah, I can't get in there. See how many people we can meet in the first day, you know? morning. Oh, where's yeah. I like the new winter fit. Thank you. I don't know if you're talking about this blanket that I slapped on my model or my it's just something I slapped on. It's a pre-made asset. And then the winter fit in game is I have a couple mods for that. All right, we should start heading home. Maybe we'll check the saloon one more time. Oh, Sebastian. I am a mort. We'll check the saloon one more time, see if anyone new is in there. I need Leah still, who was a tricky one, and Harvey. And Alex. Got Alex. Willie. Shane. Hi, Dan. Oh, there's Leah. I think it's like just Harvey then. Springtime is lovely. It's not spring. Let's just leave Harvey. Harvey and... Gosh, I can't remember his name. Hi, Moxie. So cozy. Yeah, I think everyone's just all waking up at the same time. Linus. Thank you. My brain couldn't separate his name from Lewis. And I was like, I know it starts with an L. It's been so long. I changed the season to winter, right? And in doing so, it like, it like added a whole bunch of stuff, right? I've been awake because my cat stomped all over me at 8 a.m. Thanks, Cato. Oh no, Maeve. Alright, it's just Harvey. We'll have to meet Harvey in the morning because he's not gonna come out of his house. Worm. More powder melon seeds. These grow in the winter, so we can grow them. Let's just see if we can get them planted. Stick them in the ground. No! I pressed the... I thought I was on my watering can. I was not. Anyways, so apparently there's like mystery boxes now. I woke up when Moxie did for once now. I just finally, just got finally my coffee and stuff and officially among the living. Nice. I had latkes and a donut for breakfast, so I'm feeling pretty good. Cato. So I have a few mods. One of them gives me the ability to have a scarf and mittens. I haven't even had coffee yet because I'm loyal. You're having the same thing? Nice. I'm sorry I ate all the applesauce. There was not a lot left. Anyways, so the few mods that I have are the cheats menu, just so that I could change it to winter. Latkes and eggs, and now I'm having donuts and coffee. Nice. The other one that I have keeps the cat inside in winter. Basically, if it's cold out, the cat is not gonna go outside and like sit in the cold. Because that always makes me sad. Yeah, and then I have the aesthetic clothing mods, plural. Okay, gotta go talk to Willy. Gotta go talk to Harvey, and we gotta go look in the community center for apple rats. But yeah, when I changed the season to winter, a bunch of stuff happened all at once. So apparently there's mystery boxes. I don't know what that's about. Oh, it's Linus's birthday. I wish I had something for him. So yeah, so apparently there's mystery boxes. I got the what's it called? Oh, the requests board. I opened the community center. So, and the mine opened up immediately as well. Like the Joja thing cleared. Oh, and I got my cat. So skipped a bunch of story stuff, but it's fine. It's mostly stuff that you just it's all stuff that you're just gonna unlock anyways, pretty immediately. So a lot of good fish. Finally saved enough to buy me a new rod. Thanks, Willy. I got a bamboo pole. Good water here in the valley. All kinds of fish. Cool. Shop's back open now, so come by if you need supplies. I'll buy anything you catch. It smells, it sells. I don't think I like quite how much the scarf is animated, but it's fine. All right, let's go talk to Harvey. I can pick stuff up around here to sell. Wiggly wiggly. It just feels a little bit too much. That's fine. It's a little over animated. That's okay. Just like compared to the rest of like the movement on the player, it just feels like a lot. Hi, Harvey. How to win friends. I gotta give someone a gift. I want to give them something they'll like, though. I wonder if Linus would like an oyster. Because it's like food, right? He likes food. I want to like give him something for his birthday as well. And I have this gold star oyster, so let's try. Let's see if he likes it. I'm not gonna look anything up because I think it's more fun this way. And I'm not trying hard or anything. Ooh, coal. Useful. Maybe he'd like the coal. Some holly. Hey Linus, do you want this oyster? A birthday gift! Yay! Every time I see the word holly, that's what I think of. That one specific song. Alright, let's go check out these rats. Oh, and I get 100 gold for that. Krobus. Oh yeah, we saw Krobus. And Willy wants me to catch a squid. I don't know if I can do that in the winter. Rat problem, rat problem, rat problem. Apple rat. Get this mysterious text. Back to the farm. Back to the farm. Do you think Emily would like a holly? Let's go try. Cause I like Emily. She's my gal. She's kind of crazy. And I kind of like that. I think it's fun. And she likes sewing, and I like sewing. And I think she would appreciate my doll hobby. Several people hate Haley. Oh, several people hate Holly. Several people hate Haley. Well, that might be true too. Several people hate Holly. But I feel like Emily would, I feel like Emily would like it. Is she in there? She might be at her... Oh, she's right here. Can't see her. I'm not used to people's winter outfits. Haley and I aren't made for such a big house. It's a hassle to keep it clean. Do you want this, Holly? It's festive. Oh, she doesn't like it. She didn't like it. It's too bad. Oh well. I tried. I tried. What can I do? We can go to the mines for the rest of the day, I guess. Because I don't really have anything else to do. Hey, Caroline. You have everything you need for the farm? Oh, we might be able to help you out. Cool. Thank you. To the mine. I'm really hoping I get my new VTuber done for the new year. That's what I'm hoping. I want to have like a little like new year, new me kind of thing, you know? Even though that's really stupid. And like I think people try too hard for New Year's resolutions. Like I feel like my New Year's resolution is just gonna be to like try hard things. But that could mean anything. But people who are like, I'm gonna work out every day, like that's just setting yourself up for failure. Welcome back, Kenj. That's a good one though. Yeah. To try hard things. I really want a silly New Year's resolution, like eat more oranges. That's a good one. I agree. Eat more oranges. Less likely to get scurvy. Hi, Marlon. We're gonna be besties. Vitamin C is good for you. I also think I want to go outside more. 2027, the year of no scurvy. 2026, you mean? Wait, he didn't give me a sword. Oh, he did. I thought he didn't give me a sword. I was like, wait. Where's my sword? And 2026. Man, I thought this year felt long. Building up the vitamin C in 2026, so no scurvy by 2027. It's a multi-year goal. Yeah, that's good. You gotta keep it manageable. I'm thinking ahead. Yeah, load that vitamin C so hard in 2026 that you obliterate 27. I wonder, like, what do you guys think, finally defeat these pirates with my vitamin C energy? Yeah. Or yar. I don't understand why people in this game hate Holly, by the way. Because, like... Yeah, take that, Ricketts! Because, like, holly is a nice festive thing. You hang it up around your house. I don't know why people hate it. Vitamin C is good for a lot of things. It helps your immune system. By the way, I saw this thing the other day, and it was like, listen, you don't want anything to boost your immune system. If you have a boosted immune system, you have a chronic illness or something like that. They're like, this is like having a boosted immune system is not a good thing either. Like, you can have things that help your immune system, but boosting your immune system is a bad thing. I thought that was funny. Because people are always talking about, like, immune boosting, whatever, ginger shot. I think holly is poisonous to eat, and so Ape was like, why would anyone want poison? That's stupid! Everyone wants The funky girl who dances in her room and believes in crystals should definitely want poisonous plants. Right? You dummy, that's not why people get holly in the winter. Yeah, eat it. Delicious. Yum yum poison. Get boosted 2026. But all my acai berries, all my antioxidants. It's not gonna boost your immune system. That's too much. Get boosted 2026. Wood. Hardwood. Hardwood's really good. Early game. Give Abigail amethyst. This looks delicious. Abigail eating crystals. Abigail, no. I mean, she's kind of right, though. Crystals do look delicious. It's whether you should eat them that's the question. Oh, that tasty quartz. Yeah. Yum, yum, yum. I mean, that's why Kohakuto is a thing, right? The, like, Japanese crystal candy. I really, really want to make Kohakuto. It looks so cool. How many rocks did we lick before salt? Yes. Many rock. Kitty cat. Go to sleep. I can make field snacks now. Woo! Y'all just never stopped licking. Let me pet my cat. I can't pet my cat. Why? Oh, hi, Clint. Yep. Uh-huh. Thanks. Thanks, man. They're certified and everything. Certified to lick rocks. Tasty bars of pine cone granola. Hi, Dan. Welcome back. Oh, hi, Willie. Well, I just got here. Thanks, Willie. It almost sounds like a good thing when you say that, though. He'd be a lot cooler if he respected people's nose. Like, I think if he respected Emily being like, I'm not into you, it would be like, he's just kind of like, he's just kind of shy and awkward. That's fine. But because he keeps pursuing her even though she said no, I'm just like, man, take a hint. Does Emily like quartz? I'm gonna go see if she likes quartz. You got incel energy. Yucky. This game needs polyamory. You can mod it. But it would be cool if it was like purposeful. God damn, I love coffee and donuts. It's a good combo. I believe Emily likes all gemstones. Thank you. He actually never asks directly, just sulks around pitying himself. Well, but I feel like Emily is like, consistently saying she's not into him, though. In, like, subtle ways, if I remember correctly. Like, I'm pretty sure there are times where she assumes they're friends and is hurt when he starts avoiding her when you get close to her. Oh, yeah, that's right! I do remember that. Yeah, her head is in the sky. Like, he's being... I love her. Love labor farm where all my lovers complete my affections by taking care of the farm and doing all the chores for me. In hopes that their senpai, me, will notice them. That's a complicated mod, my friend. Yeah. You can have my artifacts. Partners barely do anything on the damn farm. Hardworking farmer sugar daddy. You don't have to be lonely. That farmer's so... That's so dope. Penny doesn't do shit around the farm. Emily! I have to talk to you! Alright, well, she's in her room. I'm not gonna stalk her. I'm gonna be a good person. I'll give her my gift when I see her around. Where'd my yam go? I have to go talk to the wizard. Winter root. What if somebody made a game like this? I start with a farm, but the real long-term goal is to eventually romance the entire village and to join your polycule and doing everything for you. That's... I would play that. I think that's funny. At work. Well, I could stop into the... Well, she can't get away. Catch, what the... Catch, are you good, bro? I feel like one of those 1970s calls. It's too early. My thumbs are not awake. Kenja's thumbs betray him at the best of times. Give them each a tiny cup of coffee. Just like soak your thumbs in the coffee. Little coffee spa. Love Cult Compound Simulator 1970. Sounds like you got a game. Coffee spa actually sounds bomb. I'm sure someone does it. I believe that there is a coffee onsen in Japan as part of like a spa theme park. I think they have a coffee one. Would smell outstanding. It would. You've bathed in the coffee onsen? Nice. We got coffee in our eyes. It's very diluted. Now I just have to learn to program an incredibly different type of game from anything I've ever toyed with before. Ah, but see, you know how to program a little bit, so that's the first step. And there's tons, absolutely tons of tutorials for farming simulators. Coffee was the most pungent one by far. Japan would have to get real cool about tattoos real quick. Yeah. Yeah, they throw it. Wait, hang on. I have to show you guys now. I have to show you guys this video. Wait, I'm gonna get distracted real quick. Okay, I'm not gonna show the whole thing because I'm just gonna switch to the I'm just gonna go to the coffee. I'm just gonna go to the coffee one. This is a great freeze frame for this video, sorry. Sorry, Sophia and Tyler, like Alright,
Sake.
But after our sake taste test, it was time for the coffee bath.
Watch out, watch out.
Oh, I almost saw it.
check this shit out.
With the camera.
I'm hammered.
The coffee bath itself is just kind of like very watery coffee, though it does smell and look pretty accurately coffee-ish. In terms of its
Check
skin
this shit out.
benefits, there are some antioxidants in coffee that can help detox your skin, and the caffeine actually combats puffiness, and I feel like also just gets into your pores and wakes you up.
You know, I don't know if it's
Yeah.
placebo or what, but as soon as I walked in here, I was like, hey, caffeine.
It's
Let's
probably
go.
it's
The
probably
big
placebo.
event at the coffee bath is the coffee pour. And what happens is that they prepare actual drinkable coffee in these giant
antioxidants.
buckets and then dole it out to the crowd.
Just throw it on my face. Oh, you're supposed to drink it. I just threw it on my face. Is it hot? No, it was good.
So I tried to co-opt some of Tyler's portion for drinking purposes.
Your mouth just look like this though. Yeah, I bet.
Oh, that's
I think
good,
the
actually.
smell woke us
And
up.
after
Oh
a
yeah,
decent
probably.
amount of the crowd had tasted the coffee,
It's
they
bad.
then proceeded to throw
Yeah, look, they
entire
just fucking
buckets
throw it.
directly at us.
Smacked me right on the head.
I'm trying to drink it. Ready?
Just trying to drink it. Yeah, they literally just like throw the coffee at them.
It's very tasty.
They did this quite a few times.
Mojito night.
I'm not sure if the skin benefits are amplified by the coffee being thrown at you, but it is exciting.
Going up my nose. I'm like a beached whale right now.
Yeah, they targeted tech support.
Literally no idea what kind of footage
Quickly
they have.
several times since we had no kids.
And I did feel pretty awake afterwards. So the final unusual
So yeah, they just straight up throw. I recommend this video, by the way. Sophia Nygaard, I went to a Japanese spa theme park. It's such a funny video. Just like the whole thing is so cool. I like Sophia a lot in general. Nothing got rid of the coffee smell. Great video. We went there because of her vid. Yeah, nice. There's so many places. She also went to the cheese theme park in Imshil, Korea. I think it's targeted towards kids, but I still kind of want to go. They did like a mozzarella making class. Well, it's kind of a mozzarella melting class, but you know, it's fine. But it's a whole theme park themed around cheese. It looks completely off-brand from whatever. It's so funny. I love cheese. Could teach a mozzarella eating class. Just sit there eating mozzarella. Apple rat, apple rat, apple rat, apple rat. Let it go! It's screaming! I don't like that it struggles. It makes me sad. Junimo! Is the cheese theme park called Heaven? No, it's just called the Cheese Theme Park. It's the Imshal Cheese Theme Park. Why won't the Junimos talk to me? Bro, I fucking wonder. Your boy Rasmodius out here torturing apple rats. Okay. Could it be the imprisonment? Nature, how am I doing? Well, Timmy, you were doing okay, but then you stopped eating to ask a question, and you made me stop eating to answer it. Now go eat your cheese in the shame corner until class is over. The Junimos think you have Clint energy. Time to get high. See, the scarf just moves too much. Class is closed within a week due to exorbitant cheese expenses. The essence of the forest. I keep thinking of Clint. I cast Zone of Truth from Miguel Roy from the Adventure Zone. That's the superior Clint for sure. Absolutely the superior Clint. I need to finish watching that, or listening to that. I got to... Where did I get to? I think I just finished the Suffering game. I think that's where I was, is I just finished the Suffering game. That's the last thing I remember, is finishing that section. I really gotta feed this cat, he's getting violent, oh no. The end of the first campaign is so good. I didn't really get into later campaigns. I just want to finish it because I have their graphic novels. I really like the graphic novels. I think it's a really good format to take the podcast, and they can like kind of pick out the best jokes and like explain things a little bit better. Like, what the heck is going on? So, alright, let's go. It's so shocking that the campaign lasted for 69 episodes. Nice. There's no way they planned that. There's no way. Griffin absolutely did. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he, like, figured out a way to, like, steer them. But you still can't entirely plan. He probably, like, hoped for it as the day approached. But Yeah. Winter foraging, winter foraging. Apparently they were down to the last few and he was like, how do I get this to stay at 69? That's so funny. Excellent. He would. He totally would. Hands on the ground. Oh, Evelyn's looking at the Christmas tree. Today I'm baking cookies. They're shaped like little winter stars. Aww. I believe Moxie's also baking cookies today. Yes? Cookie? It's kind of amazing that the show starts to click. Oh, starts with dick and fart jokes, but somehow figures out how to bring you to genuine tears at several points. Yeah. I'm also in the cookie zone. Let's go, cookie zone. It's the best place to be. I wonder if I can get Pierre to cook dinner tonight. Sam makes a lot of noise with that music of his. I hope it doesn't disturb the neighbors. I'm sure it's fine. Sucks my shortbread dough looks okay. Hopefully it'll stop rebelling. Well, it's had time to like sort of meld in the fridge like pie dough does, so it should be okay. Hopefully it works. I need an orpal flower. I need the orpal. Orpal flower. Where orpal? I think there's like a space to forage over here. Ooh, more powder melon seeds. There's like a way. There's a way into the forest from here, right? I thought there was. Yeah, I know. My pickaxe isn't strong enough. Whatever. Oh, is it here? No. There was a way into the forest, but a crafty little raccoon cast a spell and made it disappear. Video game reference. Oh, okay. I was like, what are you talking about? There was a purple flower somewhere over here. I remember seeing it on the way back from the wizard. Where's the wizard? There it is. Let's go! Let's go! Run! Run! That was in Link's Awakening. Oh. I haven't played Link's Awakening. Look at the Christmas lights. family. I've come to talk to you. What's up? Must be so cold for the poor fish. You're right. I wonder if any fish hibernate. Maybe I should ask Demetrius. I bet some of them do. Yay! On Game Boy or on Switch. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to it in our Zelda series eventually. Little itty bitty chibi Zelda. Cute. I don't know where it is in the timeline because we're going in timeline order. I have brought Orpal Flower! Ta-da! I just need a snow yam. And then we'll have completed our first bundle! It's widely assumed that it comes just before or just after ALTP. TTP. I don't know that acronym. Sounds like those raccoons are back again. Filthy varmints. A Link to the Past. Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Ah, you turned up at the right moment, son. Could you do an old man a favor? Could you go around the corner and scare off those raccoons for me? They've been causing a real mess. Make sure you give them a good scare so they never come back. It was me. I'm sorry. I find a lot of hot, fresh food in these cans. Stuff that will go to waste if I don't take it. Do you think there's something wrong with what I'm doing? Not everyone's cut out for this world, Jack. You don't even know what it's like to be me. I'm not harming anyone, I just want to live life on in my own way. Is that so wrong? No, it's a shame for food to go to waste. Makes you traumatize them raccoons real good so they never come around these parts again. I knew you were an open-minded person. I feel good about what I'm doing. I'm not harming anyone. No! Nobody's using it. You can go on home. I promise I won't rummage in George's can anymore. You can tell him you scared off the raccoons for good. Wait. I know what you were doing, Linus. If you need food, just ask. I don't want anyone in Pelican Town to go hungry. Here, I've got a basket of zucchini fritters for you. Just make sure you dip them in my spicy marinara. Go on, take it. Gus is a good boy. Gus is so nice. I like him a lot. Plant these, Clinton Gus? No. No, I don't like that ship. I can't tell you why, but I don't like it. not even gonna say that sentence out loud. Absolutely not. The bookseller is in town today. And a stretch from him. Thank you for the stretch. Get these all watered. Can I get the yams? Are they like a worm thing? Oh. A book. Jack be nimble, Jack be thick. I just heard Black Stays like 15 times. Wow. I didn't even know these books were a thing. Must be new. So where does the bookseller get thick? I am thick. Thick-headed. Probably where the... It's a little bit like playing this game for the first time again. Because there's so much stuff that's been added since the last time I played. Stick combos I never anticipated having in this chat. I try my best. But, you know, the degeneracy just happens. Oh, yeah. I can see that. Especially because we were just talking about it. Retro catalog. Where's the bookseller? My nose has betrayed me. So I've heard. I think that was the first arc that made me tear up when they finally did the big reveals slash explanations. I'm trying to remember if I know what you're talking about. I think I do. I think I know what you're talking about. Unless there's a different reveal that I don't know. But, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. The Guardian robot. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. That really was a crazy arc. They said there was a bookseller. Okay, I'm gonna look it up. okay, it's near Joja. I see. Oh, that's... Yeah. There's a sign if I had just moved 5 feet. Yeah, it is very Pixar, isn't it? Gain some fishing experience. Wow, these are expensive. Makes sense. Horse, the book. Huh. Price catalog. That's cool. I just wanted to see what he had. So this is gain +1 defense. Cool. So I guess I can find books around as well. Horse. Alright. Let's go see if Emily is around, have a little chat. We'll turn in this rusty spur and go plant these powder melon seeds, and then could write books. Be a creative for once, gosh. Rusty spoon. I already got the rusty spoon. Wasn't so busy, I'd help you dig around in that cave by the lake. I bet there are some powerful crystals inside there. I will bring you all the crystals. I will also befriend your sister because I feel like that's important. No pony on your farm? Oh, that's disappointing. I'm sorry, I'm working on it. Oh, you're making a salad fingers reference. I don't know salad fingers. It was not my corner of the internet. Donate to the museum. Ba 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 ba. It's okay, you're young, I know. I don't think I'm that much younger than you. I often enjoy referring to a steam wooden spoon. What? Beverage farm, remember? What are you guys on about? Say all the old folks like it. Okay. All right. These footprints. Oh, I found Krobus. Oh, thank you. Bye, Krobus. Sebastian! It's fun to live so close to the train tracks. It's a reminder that there's a big world out there. I like Sebastian. Not, like, enough to romance him, but I think he's cool. I was wearing my pants backwards. Why did you guys tell me? Well, would you rather we didn't? Sebastian only likes coffee? Constant hemorrhoids. Is coffee helpful for hemorrhoids? I didn't realize that was not a rock until I hit it. Come on. Alright, I guess it doesn't want to. Got some ideas to sleep on. Oh, okay. I see. I prefer sleeping on a nice bed. I like sleeping on ideas. They're comfy. Actually don't like sleeping on ideas. Like when you're trying to when you're mulling something over in your head and you just can't sleep. That's me most nights. Especially recently, not quite sure why. Oh, nice little coffee in bed. Sounds nice. Oh, we got a monster area. Making quesadillas. Nice. You're very stressed right now. Oh no, I'm sorry. Well, I hope that hanging out here helps your stress a little bit. Don't have to worry about anything while you're here. You just hang out. Have a nice little coffee. It does and it doesn't. I have stuff to do, but I want to hang. Yeah, that's fair. Even the coziest of vibes doesn't always help. Oh, that slime gave me money. I think I've killed enough slimes for the guy now. I'm gonna die, though. I was telling myself I'll be productive during Black's stream. Good luck. The heck, where's my... Freaking hate these guys. Alright, there we go. Yam. Eat the yam. Might streams to motivate myself to sew. Nice. I find sewing so relaxing. And until it's not. Actually. I say that, but there's been so many times where I have melted down over a sewing project, so... I need to sew myself an XXXL Santa hat for my gargantuan head. I should make one for my dad, too. My dad's got a big old head. dog suit? Yummy hot dog. Don't eat the hot dog suit. It's not a real hot dog. Haven't had a Santa hat that fit in over a decade. Oh man. It's really sad. Gotta make it. If not hot dog, why taste like hot dog? Hot dog scented perfume, obviously. Oh, I need one ladder. I need one ladder. One ladder. Come on. Where is it? There it is. Found it. Made it. I made it. And I got some leather boots. Now we gotta run. We gotta run. I should make it home. I think I can make it home in an hour. Quote unquote hour. Come on, come on. I always love / hate the rush home in these games. Yeah. I made it. Pet the cat. Go to sleep. You can leave? You can leave Lumios? I thought you couldn't leave. You could leave? You could get back on the train? And go where? Someone tell Black they have to try it today. Live on stream. You gotta get back on the train. Clint. Absolutely not. You found the option yesterday. You gotta show me. I can't play. I'm not doing this for you, Clint. Fuck off. If I'm giving Emily an amethyst, it's gonna be from me. Max looked up what happens, it's really odd. What? The Junimos like raisins! Aww. Apparently, yeah. I just pressed the X button instead of I just pressed X instead of the totally failed on the tab. I need to know what happens, man. The suspense. Well, I'll have to go to Blackstream to find out, I guess. Gotta wait a whole hour to find out. Can I make a furnace? Oh, I need the copper ore. It's gonna be a long one today? Ooh. Well, quick ad for Black. Yeah. Sorry, what dragon? I'm waiting for Fields of Mystery to release fully before I return. I want to romance the dragon. It wasn't ready yet. Ah, yes. Yeah. I agree with that, actually. A train! Is this your first time playing this game? No, but I have not played in several years, so there's a lot of stuff that's new. No stream Wednesday, so kind of compensating with extra long stream today. I am still streaming on Wednesday. I know it's Christmas Eve, but like Christmas Eve morning, I think a lot of people don't do stuff. So I don't know. If all of you guys are like, actually we're not gonna be here on Christmas Eve, then maybe I won't. But Penny and I have a fun stream planned on Wednesday, if you guys will be here. So we'll see. Your partner's gonna be at work. Cool. So yeah, we can hang. It'll be me and you, pal. Good. I'll be glad to see ya. Yeah, Penny and I have a funny idea for Christmas Eve. But yeah, Thursday there will be no stream, obviously, because it's Christmas. So, Steph is working Wednesday, so I'm gonna hang too. Yay! Yay! Good, I'm glad we'll have a couple people in the audience. If there wasn't like guaranteed food prep that needed to happen on Wednesday, I would likely stream too, but say Lovey. Yeah, cause you stream later in the day. So it probably would get a little bit in the way of food prep. We have Christmas dinner on Christmas Eve because I go to my dad's house for context. I go to my dad's house after we open presents here on Christmas morning. So debut your freshman stand-up routine. Yeah, I'm gonna introduce my Type 5. 9 a.m. Tuesday stream from Black Hat to compensate. I was thinking maybe, I don't know. I probably won't, because actually I have to prep for D&D tomorrow. Are you amongst half siblings? I ask because I have nothing but what? I have nothing but halves and your routine sounds familiar. No, Max and I are full siblings. all of my siblings are full siblings. Except the ones that we took in as strays. I have 2 half siblings from each parent, so it's a lot of juggling. No, my parents are divorced. We have a large age gap. We do have a large age gap. But yeah, my parents are divorced, so I still go to my dad's house for Christmas because everyone else has like plans and stuff. It's complicated. Anyways, I still go to my dad's for Christmas Day. But yeah. No half siblings, just a divorce. Caroline's birthday festival advice. No, it's fine. It's not prying at all. I'm perfectly happy to talk about my stuff. I am a very open book. I don't care. I just don't want to talk about other people's stuff. So, like, I don't want to go on and you know, like, talk about things if my siblings don't want me to talk about it, you know? But yeah, I'm perfectly fine talking about my feelings and that. That's the one thing I won't tell you. So, you found it. Congratulations, you found it. Look at all these worms. Ooh, snow yam. I need that. More powder melon seeds. A book. One of these days you'll slip up. Yeah, my address is 123. Yeah, no. I can relate to the open book thing. People often catch themselves asking me questions that I have no problem answering. They're like, oh shit, was that too personal? And I genuinely don't give a fuck. Yeah. Yeah. I truly don't care. I've been on the internet so long that, like, I'm sure 123 Sesame Street. Yeah. That's where we live. Oh my god, Maxie, don't reveal our address. We could get doxxed. On my way, see y'all Christmas dinner. Uh, 21B Baker Street. That's where we live. We'll be there with all the Muppets. I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war drive. Yeah, I live, I live in 1856, London? That's not a street address, that's a time period. I think it's 1856. I don't know. It's 1850s at Dickens Fair. Our new place has an actual address with no unit number, which has me more excited than I need to be. Aww. That is exciting. Did live on London Street for a bit, like a decade ago. That's cool. just completely forgot how to count for a second. It does feel very adult to like to not have an apartment number or unit number. I understand. I think I'm gonna get a newspaper subscription. I wish I could get a newspaper subscription that just sends me the Sunday comics. That's all I want. Sit down with the fireplace. It is still a condo, but that's just how it was laid out. Oh, neat. You can just get Sunday. My grandma doesn't get newspapers anymore. When I was a kid, though, she would get the newspaper, and I would come over and I would sit and read the comics on the weekend if I was with her. Nowadays she has two like giant books of crosswords because she likes to do the crossword too. My grandma, she has two giant crossword puzzle books that she has with her basically at all times. First year in Stardew is almost over, huh? I've been here like a month. Selling new seed varieties in my shop next year. I needed to read Garfield every week from my grandma's newspaper. I wouldn't even bother trying my competitor seeds. Pierre's seeds are the highest quality seeds you'll find anywhere. That's a promise. It's okay, Pierre. Did a guy eat my... I didn't see a crow. The Festival of Ice! An ice fishing competition. I need to get my, my fishing skills up for the ice fishing competition. I'm gonna be all rusty. Clint ate it. Clint ate my winter melon. Dang it. Clint kicked my dog. Oh my god. Horrible. Going to my yard and he kicked my dog. What the heck? I feel like you're referencing something and I don't get the reference. I'm just trying to join in, honestly. I don't think there's any fish in this pond, actually. If I remember correctly. Let's go over here. We'll do some fishing. This is a truly ancient reference. Yeah, the only, like, ancient internet references I'll get are probably Dan and Phil stuff. The sads of time. Free internet? Free internet reference. Okay, I did it! Adam Sandler doing a prank call? More powder melon seeds. But then I combine this one whole reference. Damn. Just to get all our memes on CD through the mail from Colombia. I see a lot of VTubers just like around, right? And I see clips of a lot of VTubers. I just realized there's a VTuber, her name is Pumpkin Potion. I've seen her before, and she does like she has like sort of a vintage 1930s rubber hose aesthetic. And she's really cool. I just realized she does like weekend cartoons, like Saturday morning cartoons on her channel. And I think that's so cool. Used to get 5 memes a year and we liked it. So she like shows like older cartoons. She shows new stuff too, but like there was a little like Christmas movie thing that she did last weekend. It was really nice. I feel like I'm not good enough at like reacting for React content. Like to do it regularly. Oh, hi, Elliot. Hey. Let's just scrub my floorboards today. I think an algae is starting to form. Oh no. You make time for cleaning? Yeah. Would you like a fish? You're welcome, Elliot. Elliot's so hard to catch that I just feel like I should give him something every time I see him. Talking to the old community center last night. I think it's haunted. It's not haunted. It's just apple rats. From what? Twitch censored your message. Unfortunately. I can have cheeseburger. Why did that get censored? The old meme folder. Oh, you put it .com. Okay. Yeah. I can't have links on because it encourages bots to have it on. And I would rather be looking at your beautiful messages and not bots. I think we're doing pretty well. The ice fishing competition tomorrow. I wonder if I can use my training rod for the ice fishing. I'm gonna put everything away. What's that? It's only 3:50. I don't want to, like, go to sleep now. Let's go see if we can catch up with Emily. See what she's doing. That's how much Doodle Roulette costs. Oh, she's probably at the saloon at this time of night. Girlfriends! Girlfriends spotted! Let's go, lesbians! Actually, Maru and Penny would be a cute ship. Hi! Just saying hi. Seeing what you were up to. How's your day been? One time, Gus fell in the river during the ice festival. We had to build a huge fire out in the saloon to dry him out. Oh no. We're all worried we never get to taste his famous spaghetti ever again. Oh no. How terrible. Maru and Penny could be cute, very academic. Yeah. I like the idea of Maru, like, teaching the children science class. Do you ever take a whole day off? Sometimes. It's a refreshing break. Pam seems out of it. Better leave her alone now. She's already drunk. She just got here. I'm gonna interrupt the girlfriends. Hey, guys. Get so sleepy when it's cold. Hello, the weather's interesting today, don't you think? Sorry. It's okay, Penny. I'm not very good with new people either. Elliot! And Willie. If you purchase a high-quality fishing rod, you'll be able to attach bait and tackle a little bit. Don't tell me how to live my life, Mom. I'll get drunk if I want to. She's not even drunk, she's just in the zone. She's constantly drunk. I'm sure Nimbus will be a little shy at first. It takes a while for an animal to get comfortable in a new setting. That's true. My cat... My cat doesn't like being downstairs. So we kind of have a door up here in our little upstairs area, which up here has my room, my mom's room, a little like hallway situation, and a bathroom. And I named the cat Nimbus after my cat. Cause I have I have two little gray tabbies, Opal and Nimbus. And they're very nervous downstairs because they kind of live up here, up in our little area. But yeah, Nimbus, she's so brave. She's a brave little baby. She'll come downstairs and she'll like be like all hunched over, and she gets so nervous and like so spooked at just like every little thing, and she's afraid of tall people. So she's kind of afraid of Black. And like every time they walk by, she's like afraid of him. The reason that she is afraid of tall people, by the way, is because my mom had for a little while a very tall boyfriend. Like when we first got the cats, she kind of had a tall boyfriend, and he was very clumsy and like didn't look where he was going. And I think that she got like tripped over or stepped on at one point. So now she's afraid of tall people. She didn't used to be. She used to like climb up on things and be like total tree cat. But yeah. It's okay, I'm tall, I hate tall people. But yeah. Does she and Maeve get along? No. Maeve wants to get along with my cats, but they're kind of old ladies. My cats are kind of old ladies and they're kind of set in their ways, so they're not really too happy sharing a space with the young whippersnapper. She thinks tall people can't see her. Yeah, I think that's probably true. But yeah, so they they're not a huge fan of Maeve. But every time they, you know, it takes a little longer for them to start hissing at her every time we introduce them, so maybe eventually. Rude. Yeah. My cats, they're like 9 or 10, I believe, at this point. So they are kind of old. They're old ladies. I love my grumpy old ladies. Beautiful material to sculpt in, but so impertinent. I guess that might make the art even better. I'm entering the ice fishing competition. The ice fishing competition today. Why not? It's rare that Willy ever loses, though. Sorry, but carving ice parapets requires my undivided attention. Yes, ma'am. The forest looks beautiful in the winter, doesn't it? It does. How's winter coming along for you, Jack? It's going. If it was up to me, I'd probably have a pizza festival at the saloon instead. Wife dragged me out in the cold for this. Hi, Evelyn. Did I ever tell you how George and I first met? He actually pelted me with a snowball in this very festival. He was a gentleman back then and came over to see if I was okay. Aww. That's cute. Poor George. I feel like he's so grumpy because he's probably like in pain. I'm not very creative when it comes to snowmen. That's okay. What kind of snowman should we make? Something funky. Icicle antennas, pine cone eyes. That sounds like fun. I want to give him a carrot nose. Yeah. Wow, this snowman needs a makeover. Who made this? Emily started helping me without any provocation. Does this mean something? No, shut up. I guess winter isn't all bad. Playing in the snow can be fun. I was not talking to you in the slightest, Haley, but okay. What do you think of my snow goon? Snow is so cold I can't feel my fingers anymore. This is why we wear gloves, Pierre. Snowmen are okay, I guess, but mostly I'm looking forward to the spring. Pam. I plan on winning the ice fishing competition. Really? Willie's gotta be pretty hard to beat, though. He does he does this kind of stuff day and night. He does. Extreme temperatures can put your body under a lot of stress, so make sure to bundle up. Thanks, Harvey. Oh, and enjoy the festival. Sorry there's no food. Just wait until the Feast of the Winter Star. You'll be stuffed for days. Don't worry about it, Gus. I feel bad for all the poor cold animals out there. Yeah, me too. Ready to do some ice fishing? I'll do my best. You know what? I probably should have worn a jacket. Yep, you probably should have. I saw a big fish down there. Really? Nice. Cold? Nah, I never get cold. A hoe never gets cold. Hey Jack, you gonna answer the ice fishing competition? Yep. Not me. I don't know how to fish. Me neither. Scarecrow, wallpaper, icy banner, wall sconce, cranberry sauce. Is there anything that's like +2? No, there's no like plus fishing. Alright, let's go. Let's see if I can do this. Catch as many fish as you can in 2 minutes. Nice. I got one. Ah. Come on. I missed it. In this game. I hate it so much. Wait, can I like I don't know, I wanted to know if I could like switch the controls or something. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. How am I supposed to do this? Sorry. This is literally not that serious. If you're playing it through Steam, you can always change the controls. Yeah. I can't make it any easier, though. Through Steam. I could do a mod. There's plenty of mods that help. But, yeah. Okay, fresh fish do not smell, by the way. If the fish is really fresh, and these fish would be really fresh, it wouldn't smell like anything, especially since they're cold because it's ice fishing. So everyone needs to shut up about the fish smell because there's no fish smell. It doesn't exist. Well, I got 5. Like, cold, fresh fish wouldn't smell like anything. Wow, Jack is heated about their fish. I eat a lot of sushi because it's not fishy. That's just not what people think it is. I've been on boats too, but like, I guess I've never been specifically on a fishing boat. But like, I just think I think Lewis is being dramatic. I just don't like Lewis. Let's be real. I just don't like Lewis. It's not even a bad smell. Yeah. Fish boat is a different smell. No. Ladies, powder melons! Yay, our first crop! Yay! And we go water everything. zoning out while I water these plants. I'm just like so relaxed listening to the music, watering the plants. You know what? I'm gonna put this away. And we're gonna go to the mine. A book. I've got no ideas to sleep on. I'll go plant these powder melon seeds. Might as well. Let's go to the mine. Gonna go mining and crafting. This is not Minecraft. It's Stardew. More powder melon seeds. I'm hoping for like, I don't know, something nice. This isn't Minecraft? No. Exit stream. No. No. I never said it was Minecraft. I just said we were mining and crafting. It's different. The action is not the game. It wasn't blind. Oh no. I'm bad at implications. I'm autistic. Lots of copper. Oh man, there's even copper. It might be Minecraft. Oh man. I freaking hate these guys. You guys suck. How much energy that took. I just need to get one more floor down. I should have picked up some food. I want to upgrade my pickaxe and my watering can as soon as I can. combat. Come on. Ladder! Yes! Yes! Ladder! I did it! Yeah, it was a duel. Ham's here, there's always a duel. Eat the crystal fruit. So I'm not completely dead. Oh, another lost boat. Can there be dual duels running in parallel? I don't think so. You could do a battle royale. Ham wasn't paying attention and declined the duel. A chewing stick? Nice. I got a friggin' bone to hit people with. Hey Sam, what's up? One sec, I gotta beat this level. Okay. Have fun. Look at the Christmas tree! It's so pretty! Love a Christmas tree. Do you get tired of people asking about your farm all the time? No. I think I would. Maybe a little. Has little Nimbus settled in yeah, it's such nice property for a pet to explore. She's been staying inside because it's been freezing. as time plays EA, I just want to say, Alpha Pokemon are better than Gigantamax. It's quaking in her homeowning boots. Makeup done with 15 minutes to spare. Nice. I'm excited to see pretty makeups. Build another furnace. Yeah. It didn't load in your chat. Oh no. I was actually just on the phone with my mortgage broker. Boring. Boring stuff. Alright, I believe this will be the last day in the game. And then after this we will we'll go raid Bleck. Cause I think yeah. Nice little crops. See, who says you can't grow stuff in the winter? Look at this. Need more water. Need to upgrade my watering can. I think people usually do that in the winter. I may just do that at the beginning of the next season. I may want to upgrade my pickaxe. I think it's 5, so I need some more copper before I can do that. Do. Yeah, I know where I'm going. Man. No. I'm so sorry, Ham. Congratulations, Dan, for winning. Wow. And some clay. Nice. We'll see if I can get that in rainbow order eventually. Ectoplasm. Slay 50 bats. Nah. I don't feel like slaying bats. I do want to go to the mines and just see if we can get further down. Should pick up any food I see on the way, though. Oh shit, I'm gonna get canceled now. Well, time to cancel Dan. You yearn for the mines? I do yearn for the mines. You're for jail, clearly. Wow, shots fired. See if we can get another 5 levels down. And if Clint is still open, I guess we'll have some, shoot. Ah, shoot. Got him. I kinda like the club. It's not super fast, but you can just sort of clobber things. A minor domestic dispute. Shoot, more of those wretched things. I just want to get the ladder before they do anything. I just don't want to deal with it. I don't have a glow ring. My first game, I got a glow ring immediately from the mines. And it was awesome. I never realized it was like a rare thing. So I just went through and I was like, yay, glow ring. And then the next time I like made a new file and I was like, man, I haven't found a glow ring yet. Where's my glow ring? Because I didn't realize. See you on the other side, Black. We'll be through in about 5 minutes. We'll go raid Black. Don't worry, you guys won't miss anything on their stream. Just stick around for the raid. Yeah, level 20! Let's go! 48 damage plus 2 speed. It's not better than my current one. But I can get rid of this clay and keep it. And sell it or something. Let's go back up. I can sell the sword I just got. Sell sword. Not what that means, but you know. Yeah, it's not better than my... 8 to 15 damage plus 1 defense. 3 to 5 damage plus 2 crit chance. This is 8 to 15 damage. This is 6 to 11 damage. There we go. Let's head on home. And sell any stuff that we have to sell. Let's check up here. Just see if there's anything like good to forage or anything. Nothing here. Oh, that's the... Yeah, that's the quest thing. What? What are you? It's got chicken legs. It's like a tiny Baba Yaga house. It's been so long since I've played, guys. Let's go take a bath. It's cold. It's cold. I want to take a bath. Hey, Linus. Why don't you take a nice bath? Not like it costs money. Oh, I still have my scarf. That's so funny. Just take a little bath. Get a little bit of energy up. I don't need a ton of energy, actually, because, like, I'm not actually doing anything. I'm just gonna go home and go to bed. I hate that I can't run in the bath. I understand why I can't run in the bath. I hate that I can't run in the bath. I hate slow movement in games. It's probably the ADHD. But I hate slow movement in games. My day started off so productively that I kicked Hubs down the block, and now I'm all sleepy. Well, you know, a day of hard work. Let's sell stuff. You beat up a fictional tiger? Yeah. That's what happened. Oh, Queen of Sauce. Inches of snow tomorrow. But for today, it's bedtime. Thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with me. We are going to raid Blackwood. So make sure you join me in the raid. We're gonna head over there. They're playing more Pokemon Legends. Za? Play more of the Za. I have a lot of work to do if I'm gonna get my new VTuber done for the new year. So I hope you all are looking for that and forward to that. And I will see you all on Wednesday for a special stream with Penny. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye!